Editing Alley, I apologize. I bet you're going through it 2 days later when you're editing this, or 30 minutes after this is recorded, because I know we'll still be in the same place mentally. So this Editing Alley, probably 30 minutes from now. I love you. You went through so much with me. Keep up the good work. I'll see you in a couple more days when we record another video. Hello, it is me, Allie, your friendly neighborhood booktuber. If you're new here, hi. If you're returning, that's great. I love you for it. I appreciate you. I'm proud of you. If you are returning, you might be saying, hey, Allie, you look slightly worse than you do in most of your videos. Are you okay? What's going on? And my answer to that is no, I am not okay. For one sole reason that I feel like I don't really have to explain, and that is this. Literally like 5 minutes ago, finished Throne of Glass, and I am unwell, but I figured in my raw emotional state, it's a great time to reflect on these feelings about how this series made me feel and how it ripped out my soul. And I figured I would share with you the other books in series that also gave me this feeling of ripping out my soul, and like, I'm upset that I will never have the experience of reading it for the first time again. Yeah, these are all the books in series that made me feel like this. At the end of reading them, come with me on this emotional journey. So, I mean, obviously, Throne of Glass, that's why we're here. This was the last Sarah J. Maas series that I read. I read ACOTAR first, then Crescent City, and then I just binge read Throne of Glass. And I'm unwell. I love this series. It has a lot of hype, and in my opinion, it lived up to it. And my brain is unwell. I cried, I laughed, I was scared, I felt all the things. I have a friend who is just starting this series as we speak now that I've just finished it, and I'm living vicariously through her, wishing I could experience the first time of reading this again and the shell-shockingness of it. If you have not read Throne of Glass, don't be like me and not read Throne of Glass. Be like me presently in the now. And then the rest of the SJM universe, ACOTAR and Crescent City. ACOTAR is fairly popular. I feel like I don't need to explain much about this. This series for me is more of like the emotional standpoint, not necessarily that like, does it have shocking things? Yes, but like, this doesn't necessarily hold me so much in the terms of like, it made me laugh and cry. This is like an emotional, like sentimental series for me. This is a series that got me back into reading after not reading pretty much all of high school and college, like a 5-year hiatus. So emotionally, this series holds a lot to me. And Crescent City just, I don't know how to explain what it did to me. I'm very excited for my friends to be reading this for the first time so I can again live vicariously through them. If you've read the second one, you understand the whole SJM universe going on, so I am unwell about that too. Another series that I will never stop pushing on people, Zodiac Academy. I'm 7 books deep in this series. There's still like 1 or 2 more coming out. Throne of Glass on steroids. It's crazy. It mixes Avatar, Last Airbender, Harry Potter, Zodiacs in one. It's everyone's middle school dream, but smutty. But the plot and the twists and the characters, I have cried so many times. Last book, book number 7, left on the biggest cliffhanger, and I am very angry at the authors for leaving on that cliffhanger. I'm never going to recover from the fact that anytime I pick up these books and open them, it will be a reread. I feel like I'm always gonna cry when I read it. It'll never be crying for the first time again, and that makes me sad. I mentioned the series a couple times. I think I explained it the most in one of my other videos that I can't remember the name of right now because, again, my brain is a mess, but when I remember it, editing me, remember the video I'm talking about, I will link it if you want my more in-depth description about what this series is, if you're interested in reading it, because you should be. In the terms of duets, the Bellinger sisters, I go on kicks where I read nothing but fantasy for months and nothing but romance for months. Specifically, it happened one summer because Hook, Line, and Sinker just recently came out, but this duet is a duet that got me into just like a 3-month solid binge of nothing but romance. I love these books. They gave me all the feels. It was like watching a rom-com movie. It was a romance that gave me butterflies. I feel like I look like I'm in so much pain, but it's just like my brain is processing so many things right now. I'm being very, what's the word? What is the word I'm thinking of? Again, Allie, this is the word I was trying to think of. Editing Alley. I'm putting you through so much. Another duet, Full Tilt All In. This series destroyed me. It is Fault in Our Stars on steroids. If you do not want to cry, do not read these. That's all they were written for. This was one of like the first books that I ever really tabbed. It did a lot of things to me and a lot of them hurt. The first one destroys you. The second one kind of helps with that destroyedness and heals you up a little bit, but it's still very emotional. So this one's second chance romance. This one is just a disaster. Again, I've talked about these, I think, multiple times. I'll tag that whatever video that's in again. God damn it, Editing Alley, I'm sorry. And then my top 3 Colleen Hoover books. General overview for Colleen Hoover, I would check trigger warnings for any of her books. Definitely for It Ends With Us. This is not a book you should read without checking trigger warnings. I highly don't suggest reading it without trigger warnings. I think this was the first Colleen Hoover book that I tagged because unfortunately it's very relatable for me. Resonate with a lot of these things in my personal life. It was very emotional for me. It explained a lot of things that I felt on the inside that I didn't know how to put into words. I'm surprised this book isn't just waterlogged because I think I cried through most of it. This is very depressing now, god damn it. But yeah, this book is very popular for a reason, but please, please, please check your trigger warnings. You should not read it if this is sensitive content for you. I would sell my soul to the devil for this book to continue existing. I don't want to live in a world without this book. Verity was my very first Colleen Hoover book, so it holds a special place in my heart for that alone, but I am a thriller girl, and this is one of Colleen Hoover's only thrillers. The genuine fear I felt and anxiety I felt in this book is unlike any other. I don't think that I have felt this nervous reading a book than I have with this book. Not that I want to feel scared and anxious, but it's a thriller, and reading it over again and now knowing what happens, I know I will never have that same amount of oh my gosh, what's gonna happen like I did before, and that makes me sad. I want to be able to read this not knowing what's gonna happen every single time. I would sell my soul for one corn chip for this book. A masterpiece. And then Colleen's newest release, Reminders of Him. It was emotional. It made me cry. You feel for Kenna. I was sad and I was happy. It made me feel all the things that I know I will never feel the same way again, and I wish I could. It makes me so sad that I will never be reading this for the first time again. It's incredible, it's gut-wrenching, and it's God tier Colleen Hoover. Read it. Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. I've talked about this book a lot and nobody else has. Read this book so I don't have to be the only person talking about it. If you need a reason why to read it, it's got bees on it. Read it. Read it for the bees. But I think the best way I could describe this book is fantasy thriller. Some magic in it, but it's not a romantic fantasy. It's a thriller fantasy, trying to figure out all this weird stuff that's happening in this really weird town. Genuinely could not guess the plot of. I like thrillers, but a lot of times I guess what's gonna happen halfway through the book and I get it right, and that makes me mad. I'm like, dang, Allie, you're so smart, but stop. This was one of the few books that I was not guessing what was happening next. I read this in one sitting, knowing nothing about it, and it is insane. I wouldn't read this if you're not okay with gory detailed things. It's not super bad, but there are definitely some scenes where stuff is definitely detailedly described. Detailedly? Is that a word? Detailedly? They're described in great detail and might seem a little bit gory to some people. It's maybe 3 or 4 sentences out of the whole book. I'm making it sound way more than what it is. This book is incredible, and I will stand by that till the day I die. And these last 3 that I am presenting to you, I have here because these are the 3 most sentimental books to me. These are my middle school classics. These are my gateway books that got me into any genre that I'm interested in now. These mean the world to me. Are they incredibly YA for my 22-year-old butt to be reading? Yes. May they be kind of cringy to someone my age reading them for the first time? Maybe. If I reread them right now, would I still be in love with them? Yes, with every piece of my soul. These books made me the weirdo I am today. today. So let me present to you my treasure trove of the middle school books I have reread 1,000 times, and it's always felt like the first time. This is me in my raw, authentic self. Bearing my soul to you right now, don't reject. Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han. It's getting fairly popular right now with the Prime series coming out. I'm very excited to watch it. So go read it now before the show comes out. Don't be a weirdo and watch the show first. This is my middle school copy that has all 3 books into one. The cover is quite literally peeling off of the book. I have reread this so many times. This shaped me into the romance, brother's best friend, forbidden romance bitch that I am. It's iconic. This is a blueprint romance for me. Not a lot of things emotionally will top it. I can just see like the 15-year-old me reading this and being like, God, I want to be this girl. If you have not read this series, I highly encourage you to check it out, especially before the show comes out. It's iconic. It's amazing. I live it, laugh it, love it so much. I then present to you a book that I think I read nonstop for a solid summer, like a whole 3-month summer vacation. I think this was the only book I read. I reread it at least once a week, every week, and that is To Catch a Prince by Gillian Knight. So this is 3 books in one, so that shows you how short the books are. Incredibly YA. I think I asked my mom the other day what is like one book that she always remembers me reading, and it was this one, and I was like, sick, I still have it. This is another book that's been well read. The pages are yellow, the cover is bent. This is every girl's British boyfriend dream. Again, incredibly YA, but the overview of this is Alexis and Helen, they are stepsisters in this super rich, privileged family. They're 16, they go to Europe by themselves. They go to London. They have a meet cute with these 2 London best friends, these 2 boys. It's iconic. They go on all these amazing adventures that will never happen for any 16-year-old. This is a book that you read at 13 and you're like, yeah, that's a normal thing for 16-year-olds to do. And then you look back at it at 22 and you're like, this is what I thought my life was gonna be. If you like YA, if you openly read YA, I love you for that. I still read YA now and then, but I highly suggest this book. It's everything that my 13-year-old heart ever wanted, and I love her for that. And then finally, I don't have the first book. I never owned the first book to the series, so I think this is the second one. This is the third one. This is a 4-book series with a novella, so 5 books total. These are the main 4. This is the ACOTAR blueprint, okay? This was my gateway to fantasy fairy smut. This was my 14-year-old ACOTAR. This book Buddy read with a friend in middle school. I don't even think she finished the first book by the time I had the entire series read. I will be purchasing the first book now that I know that I actually don't have it. But this is the ACOTAR blueprint. This follows our main character Laurel, who is fae, doesn't know it. She was a changeling raised in the human world who has her human love interest David, and then when she turns like 16 or something, she meets Tamani, very close to Tamlin, but it's not. We like him better than Tamlin. Tamani, who was her best friend when she was a fairy child growing up, but she doesn't remember him, and it's a love triangle between her, David, and Tamani. There's war in this book. There's romance. Like, it's amazing. It literally is just like a more YA version of ACOTAR. Now that I've read ACOTAR as an adult, like, it's not spicy because it's YA. Like, people kiss, and me at 13 was like, oh my god, they're kissing. Less spicy ACOTAR, but it holds up. Like, I would genuinely enjoy this series if I was reading it for the first time at 22, and I wish I was still reading it for the first time. Highly, highly, highly suggest you guys to check this out. If you want just like a short little series to read, again, if you're a YA fan and you don't like smutty fantasy, but you want that fairy fantasy, but most of it's smut, but you don't like smut, read Wings. It's incredible. It was my gateway to fairy fantasy smut. But yeah, that's it for this weirdly emotional video. Shout out to Throne of Glass for making this happen. I have been doing nothing but thinking about this book while recording this. Give some love to Editing Alley in the comments because I know she's going through it. Editing this, enjoy my raw emotion. These are all the books that I would get into a Devil Went Down to Georgia fiddle fight with the devil to read these again for the first time with, like, no joke, hands down, that have such emotional meaning to me, especially my middle school core 3. If you haven't read any of these, I highly encourage you to, so you too can look like me. Ciao. But yeah, thank you for joining me on this emotional roller coaster of books. If you want to follow me anywhere on social media, I'm kind of questioning why you would after this. I'm clearly unhinged right now, but I feel like most of my normal content is not this unhinged. But if you would like to see some more of my less unhinged content, all of the links for that content will be down below, as well as on my home screen channel banner. Down below is also my Amazon wishlist if you guys want to send me any books that I have picked out, or any books that you would sell your soul to the devil for one coin chip for and put me through that equal amount of pain with you. You can do that. As well as my PangoBooks if you want to buy my or other people's used books, buy somebody's used ripped up soul book. Cheaper way to fill up your TBR. That's it. I love you. Thanks for being here. And maybe I'll see you back next week. I love you, and I hope to see you somewhere else on the internet. Goodbye.